Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. RF here from the Bitter Soundface and Enterprise Records. I decided to go ahead and do a little documentary of myself making a new album. Now, I know to a lot of you, like, who cares, right? It's like nobody's really even making any money in this business anymore, but it's just one of those things where I've just always had the desire to make albums because it's just something I love doing. I wanted to discuss a little bit of that background. I moved out here to Iowa about 4 years ago from Washington State. I haven't done anything with my music the entire time I've been here. I've just been too busy, working different jobs and trying to make it out here. And I'm not going to lie, it's been a little bit of a struggle. Now I'm kind of getting into a place where, we're doing better financially. I have a little time now to where I can actually start doing this. So, I was told, before I moved out here that I wasn't going to have anything to do. It was going to be boring. Well, let me tell you, I have a lot more to do out here than I ever have in my lifetime. I thought I would start this album by just showing you guys my sound room. I just finished kind of building this sound room here. Finally got that done. Just finished putting my little recording studio over here on the side of it together. A lot of my equipment is really kind of old and out of date. I have two old R24 Zoom recorders that I will be using to record this album with. I've been using these things for about 10 or 15 years now, and I think they're great. I still think they sound great. So, yeah, I'm definitely kind of old school over here. Well, I'm kind of an old guy. So, kind of an old school guy using old school equipment, so to speak. So like I said, I'll be using two R24 Zoom recorders. They also act as interfaces, so I prefer Mac computers over PC computers. Now, a lot of people would argue with me about that, and I do realize a lot of people don't like Mac computers. I personally don't like PCs. Me personally, I have a bad relationship with PCs. I've had nothing but problems with them. Mac seems to work flawlessly for me. Now, I do realize that there are a lot of people with the opposite problem, where PCs work just great for them and they can't get Macs to work at all. So, I understand that. Don't get me wrong, I do run into some minor problems occasionally here and there using Mac, but for the most part, it runs pretty flawlessly. So I wanted to get started on this process and basically kind of show you the audience, whatever that looks like. I wanted to show you all the process of how I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to start with just using some very generic drum beats. So in this specific episode, the only thing I'm going to be doing is laying down a basic drum beat for my very first track. This first song is going to be called TikTok. I don't have a name for this new album that I'm diving into at this point, so I have no idea what it's going to be called or titled. Hey. That's my son over there interrupting, as usual. My son just turned 7 recently over here. You will be seeing him in my videos. He's actually going to be helping me make these videos and also helping me make these albums. He's pretty much a little know-it-all, but he's a good kid. I will not be showing his face. Some of you will be sitting going, well, why? Why don't you want to show his face? Well, the reason for that is I'm trying to protect him. I have a very strong belief that, parents probably should exercise a lot of caution when it comes to showing their children on social media platforms. I think it's potentially dangerous. There are a lot of predators out there, so I take this very seriously. So you will see him in the videos, but you will not be seeing his face. So anyways, we're going to be starting off with, just a very basic generic drum beat. I thought of this a couple days ago. I was kind of experimenting with it. I'm literally just going to be doing like a few measures of this with a click. I have a pre-recorded click track for this that I'm going to be using. Essentially, over time, this will more or less just become a demo. Like all the songs that I do for this album will be in the form of a demo. In time, of course, to the click track. So it'll be kind of painstaking. I'll have to piece it all together, to a click track. From that point, I'll decide literally if I want to use some of the parts off the demo sessions that I'm going to be starting with to put on the actual album itself. I don't even know how I'm going to end up releasing this either. I don't know. Maybe I'll go with singles and just release singles at a time. I've never actually done that before because I like to just make an entire album and put it out. I like to do that as a way to save money too because, it costs the same to release one single as it does to put out an entire album. So financially, I prefer to kind of put out a full album as opposed to just one track at a time. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, I'm going to start with some basic drum beats, and we'll just go from there. So this is a Gibson Les Paul studio guitar. I bought this back in Washington State about 15 years ago, I think, at B. Cox Music. This is a great guitar for recording it's just a great all-around guitar in general. Great for live shows, great for recording. It's just a really great guitar. It has the big humbucker pickups in it. I will definitely be using this to record with, along with a bunch of my other instruments. So let's get started on this next step. Okay, so before we get started on this next part of the session, I'm going to be taking the card out of the Zoom recorder, and I'm going to be taking it up to my office where I have Logic Pro that I use for editing. So the first thing I like to do is get into my external hard drive and open up the project here. And inside of this folder, I have the Logic Pro session that I'm going to be using to drag and drop these files into. And as you can see here, I am literally just grabbing these files and dragging and dropping them right into Logic Pro, into this session. And then, so what I'm going to do here is you can see that you have a few different options here as far as dragging the files in. And so I'll just go ahead and place all the files on one track, because you can just literally drag those down and drop them. As you can see here already, I have 10 tracks that I already created. And then here I'm going to add some compression. I like to use a lot of compression. A lot of other people don't like that. I like compression. I like the sound to be nice and fat and expanded. Okay, so here's the other thing we're going to do here really quick. So the pre-recorded click that I recorded onto the Zoom recorder here, these two files here titled Mono 000 and Mono 001, I'm going to expand this track out and take a look here, because what we want to do is try to make a click in this session that matches what I recorded here. So in order to do that, we're going to click on this little window right here, expand the track, take a look down here, and as you can see, I have the tempo set at 105. I've figured out that that's going to be a good match for what I have already. That sounds pretty good. I think we're going to stick with that. And then really you just copy and paste it. And so then now we have a basic foundation that matches kind of everything. It's really important to have a click that's preset, that's going to work for all of your recordings. We go here, listen to these drums. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Everything kind of matches up. So that's cool. So see, now we have a click track that we can use for this entire session for this track. Now keep in mind, this is just going to be a demo version at first. But then these demo versions are going to be the thing that we base everything off of. So, or I should say, these demo tracks are going to be the foundation that I base all of my final recordings off of. So you're going to have the click, then you're going to have like your basic rough tracks of everything. And then, like I said, depending on how these tracks turn out will determine whether I actually use them on the album or not. I mean, also it's important to keep in mind here too that everybody's going to have a different method that they prefer to record. So this is going to be kind of a similar setup in any software that you would use, whether it's a Mac-based program or a PC-based program. It really doesn't matter. It's all going to be the basic same principle. So you're just going to want to find your window that opens up your tempo settings and kind of get that set with whatever's going to be the best match for whatever you're doing. Also, I wanted to kind of talk about, I don't necessarily start all songs with drums. This one, I just thought that I would try that. A lot of times I'll just come up with a basic guitar riff or a keyboard riff or whatever, sometimes a bass riff, and then I will just kind of work off of that. So I will go lay something down and then maybe think of a vocal harmony or something like that, maybe lay that down, and then I'll go back and try to find a good tempo that I feel works for that. There's no right or wrong way to do an album. Also, there are a lot of people out there that are a lot better at this than I am. It's just that I've been doing this for a while. I've been making albums for the last 30 years now, and so I do have some experience. I do know what I'm talking about a little bit anyways. But yeah, there's a million different methods, and you could literally end up driving yourself crazy trying to figure out what the best method is. There are so many different plugins and programs. There's different methods of recording drums. Right now, I prefer to use my Roland V drums. They're just great because you can MIDI those things literally up to any drum program you want, and obviously you have total control that way. Now, my brain that I use on that is, I believe it's the TD-17, so it's fairly limited, but that doesn't matter because what I can do and what I'll show you in the next video is basically it has the ability to internally record whatever your performance is going to be. And so then what I do is I will literally go and record that entire performance as one single stereo track, and then you can go in and shut off each piece, so I can turn down cymbals, hi-hats, tom-toms, kick drum, snare, whatever, and then just play back one piece at a time, and then drag those onto the timeline in Logic Pro, and then line them up to the click and the song. Because remember, I'll have like the entire thing recorded to a stereo track before I break it down to one piece at a time, if that makes sense. Now, I know a lot of people think like, well, geez, that's a lot of time, doing all that. But it really isn't, I don't think albums should be rushed. I think albums should be basically set on your own personal timeline. That's certainly how I do mine. God knows I've taken up to 8 years to release an album before. So, I mean, who knows how long it's going to take me to record this album. I could get it done in 6 months. It could take a year. It could take 2 years. I don't know. I don't like to put time restraints on my projects. I just try to do them, the best that I can do them, to where I feel good about them, And the other thing too to remember is that not everybody is going to like what you're doing. You're never going to please everybody. You're going to have a lot of people that like what you do, and you're going to have just as many people that hate what you do, and that's certainly the case for me as well. So, anyways, this is how I do it. This is how I prefer to start my sessions. Just record a basic track, whether it's drums or a basic rhythm guitar track or whatever it is, and then I will try to come up with a click track for it. The other thing I want to discuss too is that I don't believe that everything has to necessarily be perfectly in time and in sync. Actually, in a lot of cases, it's better if things are just a little bit imperfect. The human ear tends to prefer things that are not 100% perfect. So that being said, there's definitely no right or wrong way to make an album. I mean, God knows there's been like what I consider a bunch of horrible albums that have came out through history that have, sold millions and millions of copies. So anyways, that being said, yeah, that's kind of where we're at here. So let's go ahead and move on. My wife's getting annoyed with me over there now because I keep telling her what to do. This is what husbands do with wives. We tell them what to do and they get annoyed because they think they're better than us. Anyways.
Shut up.
Just kidding. Anyways, thank you for watching my episodes. Like I said, we're going to be going along here. I'm just going to be doing piece at a time to be making a demo version of this new album. I'm thinking about doing some cover songs. Like I said, I don't know. Brendan, you're in the way. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be doing one single at a time for releases or if I'm just going to do a full album's worth and then just release that. Also, one more thing. I'm going to be releasing some new videos here pretty soon. Those are a lot of work for me because I'm kind of into the moving cartoon scenery thing now. Pretty exclusive to that nowadays. So, like I said, I'm going to be releasing some music videos from the previous album as we go along here in addition to these videos, these documentary videos that I'm doing here. Thanks for sticking around. Please like, share, subscribe to all your friends. And if you don't, I'll be sad and I'll probably start crying like a little girl. So, God bless you all. We'll talk to you in the next video.